Can you imagine hearing a talk from a saint in person that's specifically designed for your spiritual needs? That's what Saint John Bosco would do for his oratory boys. And in this episode, I'm going to narrate 4 good night talks that he gave. They talk about parables, apparitions from Our Lady, and even visions sent to him from God. And his manner of speaking shows that when it came to promoting virtue, Don Bosco never pulled any punches. The Miracles and Prophecies of Saint John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Don Bosco knew all his boys by name and had a deep affection for the health of their souls. Once, when he learned that one boy had committed a serious error, he was so grieved that he couldn't sleep. The following evening, he shared his concern from the pulpit, complained of the offense to God, and how much he was saddened by it. This holy concern suggested to him the idea of the good night messages from the end of April into the beginning of May. April 29th. Don Bosco mounted the pulpit and began, "Imagine a hen that doesn't want to enter the chicken coop one evening. In vain, the housewife struggles to get the hen in, but it keeps running away. So she gives up, closes the chicken coop, and goes into the house. The hen walks around, pecks a few grains on the ground, and is happy to be free, but then a noise disturbs her. At night, no one inside the house keeps watch, and the dogs roam far away in the forest. She turns to see a fox advancing to devour her. The frightened hen leaps into the air as the fox tries to catch her, but falls into the farmyard. Then the hen manages to fly into the branches of a nearby tree, but the fox doesn't lose sight of its prey. He crouches on the ground and watches, and after an hour, the hen takes a second flight and lands on the wall surrounding the farmyard. But the wall was even lower than her original tree branch. Meanwhile, the fox climbs a wooden plank leaning against the wall and runs along the top toward the hen. She has no other option but to make a third flight onto a tree outside the wall, landing on a branch that is the lowest refuge so far, but the fox pokes his head through the branches with eyes of fire. So the hen takes one last flight, landing on the ground with nowhere else to take shelter. She cries out, but in a short while nothing remains except a heap of bloody feathers. My children, the fox is the devil. The hen represents certain young men who may be good but trust too much in their own strength. They don't want rules, as the hen doesn't want to be locked safely in the henhouse. The inexperienced boys neglect warnings because they have wings, goodwill, and prayer, but they don't realize that our weak nature drags us down. Some are gluttonous, some are lazy, and others say, "Why are we forbidden from certain friendships? We do nothing wrong." Then one begins to neglect the rules, or another tries to escape his superiors. And then another has certain thoughts of familiarity, special friendships, and even sensitivities. Like the hen, you go down because your wings are not enough. The fox is running below you, and you end up falling into its jaws. Good night. April 30th. I have a sobering thought on my mind that I would like to share with you. Visit some craftsmen and ask them, "Why are you in these workshops?" They'll answer, "To learn a trade, to become good shoemakers, carpenters, or whatever profession." So I ask, "Why did you leave your homes? Why did you even come to the oratory?" You'll tell me, "To study, be instructed, and become men." But consider how much one does to learn a trade or to advance in the sciences. Now I'll ask you, "Why are we in this world?" You'll answer, "We have come to this world to know, love, and serve God, and to be happy with Him in heaven. That is, to save your souls." I've had this thought on my mind for some time, and today it was fixed in my heart. If all of you had this great truth in your minds, and you worked solely to save your souls, then you would need no more regulations, warnings, or exercises for a happy death, because you would have all that you need for your happiness if you determined your actions with such an important purpose in mind. And it would be everything I desire, and the oratory would be a true earthly paradise. There would be no more theft, bad talk, dangerous reading, murmuring, or disobedience. Everyone would do their duty as they should. Priests and clerics, students and artisans, the poor and the rich must work to achieve this end. Otherwise, all will struggle in vain. Yet, some here do not think about this in the least. The goal of these young men is to party with a few companions and a few bottles of wine. They run to find their friends, and they all slip away to enjoy some earthly pleasure. So why don't they act as diligently for their soul? Why don't they look for someone to persuade him to do good, like visiting Jesus Christ in the Blessed Sacrament? I remember the spiritual exercises preached by Don Cafasso. He thoroughly examined the immense value people give to temporal things and their neglect for their souls. He did it so much so that no one could even eat that evening. He made such an impression on us by examining that terrible truth. My dear children, let's think seriously about this essential truth of such great importance and be wise by making good use of God's grace to save our souls. Otherwise, a day will come when we will mourn our foolishness. May 1st. I dreamed that I was in church filled with young people, but few were approaching to receive Holy Communion. Near the altar was a tall, dark man with 2 horns on his head. He held a magic lantern that projected different pictures to different young people. To one he showed the playground filled with games and enticed him to his favorite amusement. To another he showed the past, his losses, and his hope for future victories. He showed another his native country with his favorite foods, amusements, fields, and his house. To yet another he projected the fruits, sweets, and the wine he had stashed in his locker to eat later. And to others he showed relatives, friends, or even worse, their sins, and even unpaid debts. Sadly, few approached the sacraments as they reflected upon the vacations and good times and contemplated their favorite pastimes. Do you know what this dream means? It means that the devil is doing everything to distract the young people in the church to draw them away from the holy sacraments, and that they're so foolish that they entertain the ideas he sends. So, my children, you must break this lantern of the devil. And do you know how to do it? Look at the cross and imagine that turning away from Holy Communion is the same as throwing yourself into the devil's arms. May 5th. In this talk, it's clear that Saint John Bosco was trying to inspire the boys by telling them about an amazing apparition of Our Lady. He said, "Tonight I will tell you about the apparition of Our Lady of Mount Bonica near Campofreddo in 1595, narrated by Carlo Pecorini in his historical notes describing the most famous apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary. From this account, you will understand how Our Lady wants her children to feel brotherly love for one another, not grudges, jealousies, fights, or other concerns." Campofreddo and Messone were large hamlets in the Diocese of Acqui in Piedmont. They often fought battles with each other over deep enmities and mutual violations of rights that led to massacres. They mourned the good ones who died with the virtuous Don Gregorio Spinola, pastor of Campofreddo, and pleaded for help from the Queen of Peace, the great peacemaker, and she heard their prayer and granted their request. On September 10, 1595, Don Spinola was inspired by Our Lady, gathered the villagers, and led them to Messone, carrying a crucifix, to plead for peace with those proud mountain people. The 2 villages met with the Augustinians from both villages. They had reached an agreement and almost made peace when suddenly a shout was heard. "Look, look!" cried Thomas Oliver. "Look at Mount Bonica! It looks like paradise!" They looked at the hill dividing the 2 villages and saw it reflected a white cloud. Soon the cloud revealed the likeness of a most splendid lady who was courted by 2 virgins, wearing a celestial mantle and white veil on her head. She was so radiant with light that everyone was dazzled, and after a few moments she disappeared. "A great miracle!" they cried out, making resolutions to live better lives and demonstrating mutual brotherhood. "Most pitiful Mary has come to bring peace," they cried. "Peace, O brothers, peace forever." The promise was repeated, and the vision appeared once again. The lady showed herself in the company of the two saints. The fortunate villagers were astonished by the vision and the precious fruits it bore. A lasting peace began between the two villages, and that peace has never failed. The Virgin heaped favor upon favor on the villagers. The sick found health by invoking the miraculous Madonna of Mount Bonica. So hopefully that gave you some idea of how Saint John Bosco conducted his good night talks, and if you'd like to hear more about his visions that he told the oratory boys, you can subscribe to this channel for future videos, or you can click on the playlist I put on the screen, or both. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.